So I wanted to make this video because there are so many young people now worrying whether they're trans because they don't conform to gender roles or because they want to identify a certain way. But you have to remember that being trans is quite a rare thing. It's hard to estimate exactly what your chances of being trans are, especially with all of the transgenders, but the most cited estimate is about 1 in 300. Yep, that's 1 in 300 chance that you will actually have gender dysphoria and actually be trans. And don't come to me with all the non-binary nonsense, even if that was scientifically proven, because the chance that you were born with a rare intersex condition in your brain would probably be even smaller. But just think about that for a moment. 1 in 300. Should we really have debates over laws and documentaries sensationalizing a condition that only occurs in 1 in every 300 people? Should this really be a hot topic? There are far more common conditions that can be just as debilitating, but get a lot of less attention. Let me give you some examples to put this into perspective. You are slightly more likely to be blind than to be transgender. You are 3 times as likely to have epilepsy, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia than to be transgender. You are about 4 times as likely to be on the autism spectrum, have OCD, or have debilitating hearing loss than you are to be transgender. You are 5 times as likely to have borderline personality disorder than to be transgender, never minding any of the other personality disorders. You're about 12 times as likely to have ADHD than to be transgender. You're over 17 times as likely to contract HIV than to be transgender. You are 18 times as likely to have any sort of severe level of mental illness than to be transgender. You're about 20 times as likely to have depression than to be transgender. You're about 25 times as likely to have diabetes than to be transgender. You are 30 times as likely to be diagnosed with dementia after you're 65 than you are to be transgender. You are 45 times as likely to suffer from migraine headaches than to be transgender. You are 54 times as likely to have some sort of anxiety disorder than to be transgender. And finally, you are over 100 times more likely to be diagnosed with some form of cancer in your lifetime than to be transgender. Just think about all of that for a second. None of these conditions are glamorized in the media. Most teenagers don't want to have these conditions in order to be trendy, and yet being transgender can be just as bad as many of those conditions. So let's stop with all this nonsense regarding transgenderism, and treat it like any other medical condition. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.